Okay, today's little adventure I thought I'd take you on. This pressure washer. I bought this new a few years ago. It's Briggs Stratton, 2.3 gallon per minute, 2500 psi. Not a bad little unit, except it's never worked right since day one. It has no idle circuit. It will not, no power enrichment whatsoever. So I put it over to choke to start, and it will not. You can pull your arm out of your socket and it won't go. So I'll show you that and we'll see if we can fix it. So with the washer outside, should be fuel in it. I just used it the other day. Yeah, there's a little bit down in there, not a lot. Over to choke, pull, nothing. You can do that all day long. So what I've done is I've actually left the breather incorrectly installed where I can get behind the air filter. Go in there and hit it with a little bit of starting fluid. There we go. Works perfect. So that works perfect every time. No power enrichment whatsoever. So what I'm thinking is the idle circuit is completely dead. Now keep in mind, this is not a failure on the go. This is a failure since brand new. So we'll pop it apart and see what we see in there. It's such a gorgeous day out. I don't really want to be inside the garage, but see if I start getting sunburnt. I'll head in. Yeah, all right. Filter off. No problem there. This thing's got pretty low hours on it. Looks like we need 8 mil. And there we go. 8mm to get the back of the airbox off. Every engine's going to be a little bit different. Yeah. What? It's a 5/16. Oh, it is too. American. It's just a little wide. I didn't know there was anything that used American bolts anymore. I shouldn't make fun of American bolts because most of my viewers are in the US. Here we go. Alright, crankcase ventilation. That gasket tore a little bit. Not the end of the world. Does the choke work? No. Does not. What up with that? Oh, do we have a choke to speak of? That's hooked to the governor, so that's what we're using as a throttle plate. So we must be using some kind of a power enrichment. Alrighty, so what it's got, it's quite interesting. It actually runs the throttle plate on the outside closest to the air cleaner, and it's hooked to our governor by the looks of it. Now, I'm no expert on this one, this carburetor, but in behind it, hooked to a linkage, is another plate down in there at the back side, and that appears to be our power enrichment. Now it doesn't slam on with any authority when I roll this up to choke. In fact, it holds it off, but the linkages look like they're assembled correctly. So what I'm wondering is that behind that second plate may be a power enrichment jet, and that's where it's supposed to pull from. When that closes, the vacuum from the crank, from the piston coming down from your intake stroke is to pull from that power enrichment jet. But I'm not sure, so I think we're going to have to pop it apart and find out. Alright, I think I'm going to revise what I think of this. I think it is like a normal engine. That secondary plate back there is our throttle plate like any other. This thing's not an alien. And this governor system is strictly for this choke plate. and it's like any other. It makes much more sense that it's like any other engine, that when the choke plate closes, you draw from your main discharge jet, just due to the increased vacuum on your jet. So we may have a low speed jet problem, not seeing anything adjustable, or yeah, I don't know, but she's got to come apart. Okay, top cover's out of the way, 2 bolts out of the carburetor. Now we just have to get the choke linkage and the throttle linkage unhooked without bastardizing things. It looks like the governor is easiest to maybe just pull that bolt, and then the choke plate, I'm not just sure yet. We might be able to spin the carb around to get it unhooked after that. Should be no problem. And that did it. Just taking that out. Now I can spin the carb enough to unhook the choke linkage right here, and then our carb will be free. And just like that, there we go. Now we can work on the bench. Okay, here's a carb. And what we're going to do is, this thing at the bottom is a float bowl. This is your metering stage for the amount of fuel coming into the carb. We don't have a problem with this. It's going to gush some fuel everywhere because the bowl should be full, because we just had it running. And there is our retaining, and there is some cookies down in there. It's a little surprising, but yeah, you're always going to find something. This is our float. This is what controls, on camera, this is our float. This is what controls the fuel entering the carburetor. Where did our pin go? There it is. The pin already fell out that holds the float. This, it's just retained by the sides of the float bowl. This, when this drops, that needle opens right by my thumb, and we'll pull that out in a second, and it allows fuel to come in until the float comes up and closes the gap. So let's go ahead and get that out of there. There was no problems with the needle. If you have a problem with the needle, it's most often going to be a carb overflow condition. We didn't have that. No issues there. And our main draws from right up in there by the looks of it. And then there's something going on here. I'm going to see if I'm going to kill a fly. I'm going to see if I can. That looks wretched up in there. That's kind of interesting. There. Take a look. Well, oh, it looks wretched because that's our seat. That has a soft seat in there, as it should, because when we took our needle out, notice how the end of the needle is strictly metal. If you have a metal needle, you're always going to have a soft seat, and vice versa, because you have to have some way to seal it. So that's no problem. We don't even want to mess with that orange down in there, because we had no issues with that. Our problem comes in either the main discharge either not having enough, or an idle circuit, and I don't even see an idle circuit to speak of. So it looks like it must just rely on drawing up through the main when our choke plate is closed. There is two jets right here, right here and right here. One may be just a sealed idle jet, and we'll go ahead. Both of them should have a pathway through, so we'll just hit them with some compressed air. And one of them just may have a chunk of dirt in it, and that's why we don't draw on the idle at all. But I don't see any transfer port or anything. It's a really rudimentary system. Nothing to it. Very interesting. Usually, oh, is that it? Up in there? Nope. Usually there's a port drilled into the side. Come on, focus, you fuck. Usually there's a port through the side, and there's none. This is like uber basic. So all we have is these two and our main discharge jet that comes right up through the middle there. And we can't even remove that. That does not look easy to come out. There is normally a screw right here and holds it, retains it in, that's perma-pressed. There's nothing we can do with that. So maybe a job for the ultrasonic cleaner if we can't blow out these ports. We're going to just see. Okay, when I blow in there, it comes out the main discharge. Yeah, that's definitely coming out the main. That's coming out nowhere. That has a pressed in orifice by the looks of it, and there's nothing. So we're going to hit it and see if all of a sudden something comes out somewhere. Yeah, I think it did. Can't tell where though. Where do you lead, little guy? We have to take a closer look. That looks like it should come out in the main area too. Interesting. I'm not getting that coming out anywhere, so I may have to take a closer look at that. I'm sure that you Briggs guys are pounding on your keyboards down below, but I gotta take a closer look. A lot to play around. Well, I've blown through everything that I can see. These ports, one goes right to the main discharge jet from the outside, and one just seems to be dead, and there's no other holes in there, so I'm assuming this just relies on pulling from the main discharge, and there's like literally nothing to it. So yeah, that's interesting. We're going to put it back together and hope that maybe I blew enough crap out of the main that that's going to make it work, or we're going to have another closer look at that choke pull-on plate. Maybe they had that assembled wrong from factory or something, that kind of governor looking deal that applies the choke. So we'll have a look. All around there is just full of schmoo. Need to get that off. It's just some kind of a white corrosion from the aluminum. Shouldn't beat up on the needle like that either, so I'll just stick my thumb underneath it and protect it. So in theory, unless something goes wrong or you tip the machine over, this O-ring has nothing to do other than seal vapor. But when you tip it over, or if your float bowl overflows, this, well, actually, it'd be better if it overflowed if this didn't seal, because when they overflow, then the engine, it just goes into the engine. But yeah, just a little bit of schmoo there. No big deal. Schmoo be gone. Doesn't matter where our float bowl, what position our float bowl goes in. Does matter if we put the seal on though. You'd be a little gentle with this O-ring. Don't hit it with anything crazy for cleaners that might attack the rubber and make it swell. Otherwise you're in trouble. Just set it on there and make sure our bowl goes down over top of it. Easy peasy, nothing to it. And put our bowl back in. Okay, doesn't need to be screaming tight, just barely snug. We'll go ahead and put things back together. Alrighty, so I put everything back together, no change. But what I noticed here, I should have noticed this before, you guys were probably screaming at the screen, but our choke, this I've positively identified as the choke plate, was floating. So I went ahead and pulled the recoil off, and it's only a handful of bolts, to see why was that floating. And sure enough, here's where it's supposed to be hooked, on this spring-loaded governor for only start position, and this thing is just bouncing off the side of it. So that should be inside that loop by my assumption, and that will hold this choke in the closed position until it gets warm. It's probably just on a thermostat, same as a car. The old cars had a heated thermostat, little bimetal spring that was heated electrically, and as the engine came up to temperature, as that spring warmed up, it would ease the choke off as well as a vacuum pull off. But that's probably all it is. That was just never put together, but right from factory. So we got a carb clean out of the deal, which it hardly needed, but I'm gonna hook that up and we'll see what happens. All right, this is it from the far side now. Our thermostat, or our little springama thing here that's heated, looks like with exhaust, holds it on, and then the minute it starts up and we don't need choke anymore, the air blowing off the fan up here will blow our choke back and disengage it. But on startup, that should be engaged. So I'm 100% confident this is going to run like a champ now. This should start with a no muss, no fuss. Cool. Alright, in theory, that pulled all the way over to there should just start first pull, nothing to it. Now, in theory, it shouldn't need the choke to start, so it should come off right away as soon as that fan starts. And there you can see the spring is holding it off now because it's nice and warmed up. So it shouldn't need choke to start now, and it shouldn't apply, and it doesn't. That's exactly how it should be working. Should have noticed that in the first place, but she's fixed. Just needs the cover put back on and we're rocking. So hope you enjoyed that. If you like what I do here, click a thumbs up. Maybe support me on Patreon. Show you how to repair more things. Maybe we'll get to root cause a little faster. If I would have just opened my eyes the first time, I would have saw that. But yeah, live and learn, right? Okay, it's a day later, and as is the nature of learning, it didn't work. What it did is it started up great cold, and then it was lean on startup hot. So I took the carb back apart, double checked my main jet. It was fine. So I'm back in here again. I went online and I found some pictures, and sure enough, this is just supposed to be up against the choke arm this way. You're supposed to line it up between these alignment marks, and actually this one's way off, so that needs to be squished inwards, and then I've already fixed it on the side to side so that it can push it off. What's missing is therefore a way of retaining this so that it stays up until the fan is rotating and then blows it off. Blows it off enough, but not so much to actually, hold on. That's pretty clever. That's actually why they have it out there. So it just blows it off against the spring pressure, but this will stop it from coming in all the way if it's like really hot, in theory. Interesting. Anyway, we need to spring them a thing, and I don't have one. There is no spring here, and I can see where it's supposed to be now. I can see a little hook right here, and then a little hook right here on the tin. So I'm just going to go ahead and make one. Okay, I made one. She's ugly, but it's the only spring I have that's light enough for this. Now, the tricky part is I don't know what the tension's supposed to be, so I'm just guessing here. This thermostat needs to be able to overpower it to some degree, so the choke actually comes off, but the fan will blow it off too, so I'm thinking this should be, like, there's no way to quantify that, but we can always loosen it up, and I may just go and order the correct one, because this is probably going to degrade and loosen off no matter where I have it set. So I'm gonna say that feels maybe a tiny bit stiff. I might loosen that up just a little bit, and we'll put it back together and give it a go. Alrighty, here we go. New spring installed. Got things back together. Over to fast. Contact. Seems a little rich. So I think our spring's a little too tight. We're going to loosen that off a little bit. Alright, I got it. It's ugly as all heck, but it's pulling the choke on, and if we go over to high, in theory, I think this will work. So that's close, still just a little too much. Alright, that's just daft. Need to order a new one, but that's about as loose as I can make it. Let's see what it does. Helps if you turn it on. Need two hands. Now the thermostat's pulled it off, so I think we're maybe good? I don't know. We'll see. In theory, that needs more tension to close that a little. Well, maybe not. It might draw. I'm going to try it. We'll see. Nope. No dice. I think I'm going to have to get the right spring. But if I put a bit more tension on that, it'll start rich, but so be it. We just finished this one. We're going to roll it back into the corner, back where it came from, and then we're going to start back on this, because I finally got the choke spring. Let's put it in. Okay, it's been a couple of days, and this arrived from Amazon. This should be, in theory, the correct spring instead of this bastardized mess that I've got in there. And maybe, just maybe, when I swap that out, this thing might actually run. Okay, that's what our new Springema thing looks like in there. Now, notice how much crazy amount lighter it is than what I had to work with. It's more similar to what you'd find in like a pen or something. I think, well, we're gonna find out. Let's try it. Full on. Cold. Let's go. Holy crap. Now, will it start again is the next question, as it never would before. Okay, that's working perfect. It's able to flip the choke off just due to the air movement against it. Now let's let it warm up and see what happens. I'm gonna plug in the water to it first though. Okay, we've got water. Choke is on, but all by itself. Full run, go. Okay, that's hot enough. The choke's not back on. I don't know. It never started before like this. Yeah, same problem. Unless that choke comes all the way back on from the thermostat, this thing will not start. If I just hold this over with my thumb or my index finger, watch. So you've got to let this thing cool off. It's set right according to the instructions. So if anybody knows, throw a comment down below. If there's a way to get that, like, you can't have that choke come back any faster. If we have it come, like, it's hot. It can't come back any quicker. So these things just seem, that's weird that it won't start when hot. I'm gonna have to do a part 2 on this, I think, as that's enough. That's craziness. Unless that thermostat comes back and cools off super quick and reapplies the choke, it won't start. So I'll follow it up. We'll see what we can do. It's like we're just a little lean, but we're not. So anyway, we'll follow it up. Okay. It's a couple weeks later. This thing's still lean after it runs. After it starts up again, when it's hot, the choke not on, it acts lean and it needs the choke to start, but the choke isn't applied because the thermostat doesn't apply it. So either it's slightly lean because of minor blockage of the main, or there is really no idle circuit in this thing, or it's just designed to be that way. So I went ahead and I ordered a new carb because I can't see anything wrong with this original one, or at least nothing super obvious. So we're going to go ahead and put this on, and we'll see whether it's a design flaw or whether we've got a problem. This should deal with it. It is also freaking hot. Oh, was this the one that was... I remember now. This thing was Americano bolts. This was Imperial. It was actually 3/8, wasn't it? Or 5/16, I should say, I guess. Yeah, it is 5/16. Okay, let's take it apart. No point in showing you this again. Same as before, same carb, same deal. Alright, we'll come back. Okie dokie, there's the old carb. I hate doing this. There's truly nothing wrong with that except possibly a clog or nothing at all, actually. Okay, here's our new choke spring still in place. That's finally working properly. It's closed right now because the thermostat is holding it closed. You can see it behind this little block-off plate. I assume this is just there to stop the air filter from getting in. And then our governor, which appears to be A-okay, behind it should be working. We had no problems with throttle control, so I don't know. Let's see. Well, let's see what it does. That should be full go that direction. Let's see. Okay, that actually fully reclosed the choke. What's different? Maybe we just didn't let it get hot enough. Maybe that thermostat hasn't pulled it off. Let's see if it'll start. It should start now. Alright, that should be hot enough. Choke's off now completely. Let's see, will it start? Last one wouldn't. That's what it was. Just a small clog. I'm assuming it was just slightly lean before. In this situation with no choke, it wasn't enough to fire it up, and now it is. This is it, I think. Try one more time. Of all the time I spent cursing this thing, it was impossible to start. It was such a pain in the ass. And now it starts like a champ. Well, now I finally have a good pressure washer back in service. That's the way it should be. Roll it over. You saw it start ice cold one pull with the choke, and now it's one pull with the choke completely off down in there. So that's working perfectly. Holy, that thermostat's got a lot of push. So one choke spring, one carburetor. I'm sure we could rebuild the old carb. I'm sure anybody could. I'm half tempted to put it in the ultrasonic, but truthfully I'm done with this. This new carb was $11 Canadian right from China. That's why I had to suspend the video so long, but for you, there was no suspension at all. Click a thumbs up if you like fixing things, if you like putting things back into service. I hate throwing things away. Anybody can do this kind of thing. There's no rocket science here. As you saw, we had to fumble around and figure it out. And it had problems multiple problems right from factory, and so be it. I'm actually almost wondering whether that low speed or the main just wasn't drilled properly, because like I said before, this thing has been this way since it was new, since I purchased it. So now I can roll this thing out, and we can just take it out and use it whenever I want. I just got to put the cowling back on it, and we're back in business. Awesome stuff. Thanks, guys. Cheers.